nilienda tu mtu atalipa because I thought it was physical. So when I got the offer and went for the training, that is where I saw my first disappointment. There were computers everywhere. I just have a computer certificate. I've never had any computer certificate. In my life, the only certificate I have is graduation. They got a computer before me. And that's what I needed. You took
Hello guys, welcome to our panel discussion where we will be discussing about tourism industry during this coronavirus pandemic. On our panel today we have Lamek from Tour Operator Society of Kenya, Boniface, a tour operator. We'll also be having Joe, who's a tour guide. We hope to have other guests join us as we proceed with this discussion. So today, if you want to be part of this panel, all you need to have is have a good internet connection, and also if you're using a phone, you need to have a good earphone. Also, still having a good internet connection will do. If you're using a computer, you need to have a webcam and a mic that works, so that we can add you into this panel discussion. Those using mobile phones, still remember you must have your earphones to avoid having echoes repeat themselves. Just share your phone number in the comment box and I will add you to this discussion. I will send a link and you'll be able to join. So let's have our guests introduce themselves. Here we have Boniface. Boniface, kindly introduce yourself and tell people what you do.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Boniface Washira. I am an accommodation supplier in which the travel agencies and tour operators are able to book, reserve, and confirm their hotel bookings through either of our platforms. We do manage 7, and in Africa, we are distributing 3, that is destinations of the world, lots of hotels, and total stay. Thank you very much.
Nice. As we wait for others to come back online, we will proceed with you as we wait for the rest to come online. So, Boniface, kindly tell us, how has the COVID-19 affected your business, specifically to do with the tourism sector?
Yeah, as you all know, is that at the moment, as we speak, there's no travel that's happening anywhere in the world. And so even all the bookings that were there previously, all we've been doing is receiving cancellation requests from the various travel agencies and tour operators. And those who've been able to at least amend to some further dates have been able to do so. However, since some of them are corporates and their purpose of travel was probably to go and attend a seminar or a function or an event, which was cancelled, they had absolutely to cancel their travel. And so we've had a lot of refunds and cancellations. And so by default, this has negatively affected the business. So many companies recording losses to an extent where some of them have had to close shops. So we do not engage the travelers directly. Our main channel of model of our business is that we only work with tour operators and travel agencies. And so when they're not working, it means also from our end, the business is not good at all, which has been the case globally with no exemption. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you for that insight. Also, how do you feel? Is the government doing enough to help cushion the tourism industry in Kenya?
Owing to the fact that this was an unforeseen circumstance and no one had prepared for it, We believe that his Honorable Waziri Najib Balala is trying his best, of course, with the consultation of the various associations and members, but we still have a long way to go because the key players, who are the tour operators and travel agencies, have found themselves held at a corner in which they don't even know how to react to this. And the first reaction that most of them have had to do is to send the staff to unpaid leave, and some have been released, of course. Uh, but going back to the question as to whether the government is doing enough, I believe we still have, they're trying, but there's still room for improvement. Have I answered your question?
Yes, you have. And my next question will be, how has your income personally been affected by all that is happening, especially to do with the COVID-19 outbreak? How have you been affected? Is your livelihood still stable, or are you experiencing turbulences in that?
Uh, I'd say everyone is affected because even if the effect has not yet touched on some of us, which means we don't know for how long this will continue. And for the purpose of planning, you cannot live the way you've been living in terms of the expenses, in terms of probably whatever it is that you used to do, you get to scale down on the expenses to make sure that at least whatever it is that you have will take you to the end of this pandemic. I don't believe anyone is living the normal life at the moment because we are all hit. It doesn't matter whether we are in tourism or any other sector, even in the informal and local, no one is living their life the way they used to. So, yeah, financially, I think we are all hit.
Okay, okay. As a stakeholder in the tourism industry, uh, what are you doing to cope with the situation, given that business has stalled and nothing is going on at the moment? What are the some of the things that you're doing, perhaps to keep your business running, or perhaps to stay safe in these trying times? What are you doing as a stakeholder?
Uh, what I would say I'm doing is that I'm engaging my customers who are the travel agencies and tour operators to take this time to set up the relevant infrastructure to be able to get into business when things get back to normal. For example, we've had a number of agencies who have taken this time to positively engage in some projects like integration of XML, and we are powering the websites so that by the time things get back to normal, at least they'll be ahead of the game. Instead of just missing their stuff, what some of them are doing, and that this is after we've advised them that look, with this time, now, normally I will be using this time to work on consumer business, but since that is not happening, I don't use this time to review your business and do what it is that you always want to have in place. And at the moment, I think I've put a number who we are taking in implications, and with progressing on well, we believe by the time this is done, quite a number of them will be way ahead of the game. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'm being informed something is wrong with your audio. You can try fixing so that people get you clearly.
Really,
So yes, I
is it
hope
the
it's
mic
okay
not
now.
clear?
Yeah, the mic.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, now you're clear. I don't know if it will be troublesome for you to repeat the last point since you are inaudible.
Sorry, I can still repeat and say, after the consultations with my customers, we've managed to get them to use this time positively by way of starting up projects and evaluating their business to make sure that they've got in place what they've always hoped to have. For example, quite a number of them are now working into integrating XMLs into their websites, meaning by the time business is back to normal, they will be way ahead of the business. And as we always keep on talking of taking the business online, you will realize that when some companies sent their staff home, some took advantage of this time to engage them to, you know, progress and be ahead of competition. And I can tell you of quite a number of them who are already now activated, just waiting, and the inventory is easily accessible. We've done tests, just waiting for the proper environment for the business to come back, and they'll be flying high.
Okay, okay. How do you see the industry being affected? Now we are looking in terms of post coronavirus pandemic. How do you see where will the industry be after the pandemic is over?
You need to be specific in terms of the timelines. Do you mean immediately after the pandemic, or how long after the
Immediately,
pandemic?
immediately.
Immediately, immediately after the pandemic, I think we shall start seeing some bookings coming through, but it will not be business as usual. Reason being, uh, the potential travelers will not have adequate funds to travel, and even the corporates will not have gathered whatever it is that motivates their travel. Let's say, for example, it's a corporate that travels for business, and probably it's funded by some other NGOs or something. They will not have gathered enough justifications and motivations for travel. So even as we say, immediately after the pandemic, it will not be business as usual. It will take a few months for us to get back to where it used to be.
Okay, okay. In that regard, this means that it will take some time before business picks up for tour operators, for hoteliers, for travel agents. So it will be some time. In your own estimate, how long
This
do you
is
think that it
this is all dependent on what it is that you'll be focusing on. If you focus on the traditional way of working, it will take some time for you to again pick up. But if you're looking at new product development techniques and other aspects that you can use to push yourselves back on your feet, at least it will take you lesser time to get back to whatever point that is that you are, or even higher. It all depends on what it is that you're doing during this time to determine how fast it will take you to get back on your feet.
Okay, and given that the Bloomberg had predicted that we are heading straight into a recession, don't you feel like it will take even longer before the industry picks up? Given that, as you said, there's no spending power immediately after the pandemic, given that most nations are experiencing a lockdown. Also, we are having issues of widespread infections, which is destabilizing economies. Don't you think it will take probably over a year before everything comes back to normal? Now we are looking between 2021 to 2022.
Uh, I may not have done a professional research to set up projections as to how far this will take us, how long this will take us, but from my own evaluation, is that by the end of, say, by the end of the year or the third quarter of the year, quite a number of countries will have managed to at least contain the situation to a considerably environment in which business can start opening up, even if not fully. So whatever it is that was projected may not really be the case. For example, if you look at what they had said about Kenya, whatever number they were projecting as by the end of the first week of April, you can see we didn't get there yet. We haven't gotten there yet, and I don't believe the numbers will be as high as someone might have projected. So I don't think everything that was really put forward as to what someone expected will happen. As of my own opinion, is by the end of the year or that quarter, at least things to have started changing for the better.
Okay, okay. Now, given that this is an issue, the pandemic has affected everyone across board. Through your interactions with other hoteliers, in short, other stakeholders in the industry, what is the feeling generally as to the impact? What impact has it had on other people apart from you?
The thing is, if you talk about the impact that has been felt owing to what has happened to our industry, is that we have got directly and indirectly employed people by our industry, and all of us are suffering. even other I would say subsectors of tourism, not just the hotels. We've got the guys who supply the foodstuffs to the hotels. We've got the guys who work in the transport. We've got the guys who do various other activities that come in together to form the success of all the packages that we sell as an industry. And each and everyone is negatively affected, and each and everyone is feeling the heat as of now. So, and it goes without saying, you all know that the feeling is stressful to everyone. And a lot of people, a lot of guys do not know what to do because this came unexpected and no one ever planned for it.
Okay, that's nice. And we recently saw before the pandemic hit on a large scale, we saw the government saying that it had allocated 500 million into the tourism sector. Do you feel the money has been put into use as it is supposed to?
Uh, I really haven't followed to see what Waziri has done with the money, but from what I read in some article, which was not directly from his office, is that the money would be used for marketing. I'm not sure if this was the initial intended purpose of the allocation, because I would have imagined, like we have got some other destinations, especially in Africa. To just give you an example, is our colleague nation, that is South Africa, that is using the allocation given to at least help the most affected travel agencies and tour operators to get rid of or to try survive during this difficult time. But I believe Waziri knows all this, and he knows that we've got companies that really need financial support to help boost them get back on their feet. So it's not my call to say how this money will be used, but I believe that it will be put into proper use.
Now, given that we are coming straight out of a pandemic, now this is just to ask generally, do you feel like having the money spent on marketing is the wisest idea, or should have the money been used to cushion some of the companies, especially ones that have been hardly hit, to get back on their feet?
Uh, I believe the ministry normally do have each and every year they will have marketing allocation from the government, and that will always be there as long as the ministry is there. But for this particular case, this was meant to help fight the pandemic or to help cope with the pandemic. So I believe they should have been put into use. There should have been some consultation with the members, let's say the travel agencies with tour operators. Of course, they've got their representation through the various associations we have, and then the members or the officials would have given forward their views on how this money is to be used. And I believe, of course, it could have been used into supporting guys who might plunge into the pandemic if they're not given the financial support.
Okay, we recently saw Business Daily come up with an article that suggested park fees were to be increased from the current fees to something above 50%. What's your take on that?
Uh, I believe you saw that Waziri came back with a response saying that due to the prevailing conditions, this was postponed until further notice. So I think this was well handled immediately after the issue of raising it to 300% came up, and it was contained.
Okay, given that it is still contained, we still have, if you check in Africa, Kenya leads in terms of park fees. When it comes to park fees, when you compare, especially when we look in the aspect of foreigners visiting the country, we lead by a very big margin. Do you think it is wise if we have the changes? Yes, they have been postponed, but this means that they will be implemented in the future. Do you think it is wise having the park fees increased, given that we are trying to boost internal tourism within the country?
I think what you're supposed to be looking at is the experience we are offering in those parks. You might lower the park fees and still not sell. And again, you might increase the park fees, but given that you're also planning on how you're going to improve the experience, the potential buyers will not feel the heat. The only issue would have been if you're increasing the park fees and you're doing nothing to improve on the experience or the services offered in those protected areas.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. We do encourage viewers to send in their questions. If you have questions you want to ask, or recommendations, or even views, we really encourage that. Uh, uh, what message, Boniface, would you like to pass towards the government? What message would you want them to understand from you as a stakeholder in the tourism sector? What message would you want them to understand?
I think the most important thing at the moment is to have the consultations with the relevant players in the industry, whether it is the tour operators, whether it is the regulators, whether it is the hoteliers, and the transport, of course, facilitators. Someone might think they really know what, say, a team or a group of service providers in the industry needs, and it turns out to be the complete opposite. The only thing they need to do, if at all we are to get out of this together, is to have consultations with the people, with the representation of the service providers. If it is the hoteliers, they've got the association. We need to consult with the association on behalf of the members. If it is the tour operators, they've got their representation through the association. We need to engage them to know exactly what it is or how they feel or how they want us to go about this. And if we do
Now,
that, then I believe we're going to have an effective way of getting ourselves out of this.
okay, true. And on the same note, do you feel that organizations that represent or are supposed to be representing tour operators, hoteliers, and other stakeholders in the industry, do you feel they are doing their part in the representation, especially when it comes to giving out views of stakeholders, giving the feedback back to the government?
I haven't really seen what some of them have been doing. Some of them have been completely quiet, but I have seen quite a number of very effective participation from individual members of these representations. But in terms of the associations, yeah, but then I wouldn't profile all of them, or maybe generalize all of them, because we've seen some statements from associations like Qatar. We've seen some statements from other associations, but some has been really mute, and it's time for all of them to wake up and really do what it is that they're supposed to do, especially during this difficult moment for their members.
Okay, okay. And I would also like to ask for those tour operators who have employees under them, what is the best advice you can give them when it comes about the situation that they are currently in, since they have employees who need salaries? What kind of advice would you recommend?
Uh, this is dependent on how stable some of these companies will be. There are some companies that even on normal environment, they weren't doing very well, and so you will understand if they say they're not able to sustain the staff. But for those who probably have been there for quite some time and they've managed to attain their stability, it would be humane enough to at least offer a retainer to the staff, even if you're going to engage them into some projects or maybe some restructuring or some sort of preparedness as to what happens when things get back to normal. Not necessarily just releasing them or sending them away, knowing very well that they may not have a way of survival. It is we need to be there for our brothers and sisters, and if and when possible, we can have them retained.
Okay, and those who own tour companies, what is
Mhm.
the best way to use this moment? Is it perhaps what kind of advice would you give them, since majority of those who work in the tourism industry are at home? What kind of advice would you give them? How best can they utilize this moment they are at home?
Institutions will have various ways of management, and none of them is managed based on the other. We may have some who are, like I said, I know quite a number of them that I'm engaging in for their XML integrations. But quite a number of them that are engaging into new product development, meaning when we come back, we will have new frontiers and new products that have not been offered in the past, but something that is already being developed, and this is the best way to use this time. Remember, when things come back again, we shall also be talking. We shall still be talking of the issue of competition. How prepared will you be, or how effective that you are you using this time to make sure that when we get back, you'll be ahead of the game? Is the question that they all need to ask themselves during this time.
Okay, so we are looking matters of perhaps it's a good time for people to rebrand their companies, a good time to also refine their marketing strategies as we wait for the pandemic to end.
Yeah, yeah. So when it's you do not start, you don't want to start waking up to do whatever it is that you could have done during this time. Then otherwise you'll be way back, and everyone else will have picked up and left you.
Okay, that is in order, and we still encourage you guys to send in their questions so that we have some of these questions answered. It is unfortunate that the other guests were unable to join because of communication connection issues, but we hope if time allows, they will have enough time to join us. So, Mr. Boniface, what else, perhaps your closing remarks to this whole issue, the coronavirus issue? What are your perhaps your last remarks?
I would say this is not a permanent situation. I know quite a number of the players in the industry might have received, might have been forced to unpaid leaves, and others have been released. But take this time to develop yourself. And if you're a tour operator, or you operate an organization or even a hotel, take this time to effectively put structures in place, so that when we get back onto our normal working environment, you will not be where you were then, but you'll be way ahead as compared to others.
Yeah, that means that it is a chance for us as tour operators, as hoteliers, as tour to use the moment to our advantage to advance ourselves, since it is a good time. You have all the time in the world to restructure. It's unfortunate that we were unable to get everybody on board today, and we hope to have this discussion another day, as well as we're trying to get also somebody from the Ministry of Tourism to be on board to answer some of the questions that might be raised in the future. We are thankful for your time, and we hope to have another talk in the future. Mr. Boniface, we are very grateful for your time, and we hope to have you again on board the next time we go live.
Thank you very much, and you're welcome.
Okay. Thanks, guys. That's it for today. We hope to have another one in the coming days. In case you have any questions or you want to be part of the show, you can just inbox me through WhatsApp 0793 600, or you can also comment on this show and you will be able to communicate. That's it for today, guys. Thank you.